Now, I had this question in my mind: do we really care what other people think about us? Right? We're only here for God and for God only. If that's really the case, and you're really living by that, do we really care what others think about us? And the answer is yes, because at the end of the day, part of your being an Eved Hashem is also behaving towards other human beings with politeness, with kindness, with the way Hashem would like for you to behave to them. And so therefore, being a Baal Bitachon gives you that aura of being polite, of being kind to other people. And so it's important that you are liked by other people, not maybe for the sake because you might get something from them, for ulterior motive, but for the sake of making a Kiddush Hashem in this world. All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's shiur should be Le'ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gabriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi, Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dov HaKohen, and B'schos the Refuah Shalema Bakarov, Mishalom ben Sarachel, Miriam Bas Sarah, and Shoshana Sarah Bas Esther Yachet. Today, we are on page 355 in the Ora Vigdor, for those who are following along. And today, we're going to be talking about the sixth out of the 7 differences that a person who has Bitachon today is different than a person who lacks Bitachon today. And we started off this segment talking about how a person with Bitachon has might seem very similar to the person who lacks Bitachon, but there are sometimes very subtle and sometimes some very big differences between them. Sometimes there's something that you can see from the outside, and sometimes there are things that you cannot see. They're internal, they're in the heart. It's how they feel, how they act internally is the difference. And today, the 6th difference of a Baal Bitachon versus a person who lacks Bitachon today is when it comes to their relationships. How does a person behave, how he acts, how does that look like in the social circles, whether it's with his family, whether it's with friends? How does it look, a person who has Bitachon versus a person who lacks Bitachon? Now, the trusting person, Vahashishi, the person who has Bitachon, that when he trusts in Hashem, who all of the chol kitos b'nei Adam, this person who trusts in Hashem is liked by all people. And they have positive attitude towards him. Because they feel confident that he will not harm them. And their minds are at peace with him. And their dealings with him, they have no fear of him harming them, or it says over here, taking away their wives, or taking away their money, or any such thing. Why? A person who has Bitachon, he's a very liked person. A person who is liked by other people in the sense that they feel secure with him because they know he's a person who's a Baal Bitachon, they know he's a person who's an Eved Hashem. They're very comfortable around him. So automatically what happens is when he goes out in his social circles, in his community, people are not leery of his ulterior motives when it comes to different things. People are not leery of him in general. So this person has a much easier time getting around being liked by other people. Now, I had this question in my mind: do we really care what other people think about us? Right? We're only here for God and for God only. If that's really the case, and you're really living by that, do we really care what others think about us? And the answer is yes. Because at the end of the day, part of your being an Eved Hashem is also behaving towards other human beings with politeness, with kindness, with the way Hashem would like for you to behave to them. And so therefore, being a Baal Bitachon gives you that aura of being polite, of being kind to other people. And so it's important that you are liked by other people, not maybe for the sake because you might get something from them, for ulterior motive, but for the sake of making a Kiddush Hashem in this world. Quick pause for just a moment. If these shiurim are helping you think deeper, live with more clarity, and building your trust and your Bitachon in Hashem, I just want you to know that this channel exists because of people like you who believe in this mission. I've created a Patreon for those who want to help partner in spreading the Torah that speaks to the heart. Supporters get access to bonus content, deeper discussions, and help make it super possible for me to keep producing these shiurim consistently. There's no pressure at all, just an open invitation to join us if this learning is meaningful to you. I left a link in the description below. All right, now let's continue our shiur. V'hu gam kein batuach behem. And this person who is a trusting person, Hashem, he in turn also feels safe from injury caused by these other people, because this person knows that your well-being, whether it's physical, whether it's monetary, whether it's mental, nobody else can hurt you in any kind of way unless it's decreed by Hashem. And so what happens is a person who's trusting in Hashem, when he goes out in the world or wherever he is, he's not worried or leery about other people. He's not always on guard about other people. Why? Because he knows that nobody can hurt him. Nobody can do anything to change his status in any other aspect of his life, whether it be his physical, whether mental, financial, relationship. Doesn't make a difference what it is. He knows this person who trusts in Hashem, person who has Bitachon in Hashem, understands that nobody can hurt him. And so when he goes out there, he's also at ease. He's not constantly on guard and leery of every other person and worried about what that person might say or think or do, because he knows that that person can't change anything for him. He knows that it's only Hashem that does those changes. And when a man has Bitachon, he knows that whatever happens is because Hashem made it happen. Even if somebody out there were to hurt him, he understands that this is not something that this person did with his own ability. He only did it with the ability because Hashem gave him that ability to do so, because maybe you deserve to be hurt at that point. Therefore, this person who's trusting in Hashem, he's not afraid of any harm from anyone else, just as he doesn't expect to get any benefit from them, since he has confidence in them and they have confidence in him. He likes them and they like him. It says in Tehillim, the pasuk over there says, as for the one who trusts in Hashem, kindness surrounds him. The full sentence, the full pasuk over there actually reads, many are the agonies of the wicked, but as for the one who trusts in Hashem, kindness surrounds him. Now, Rabbi Victor Miller says that this sentence, this pasuk, this verse, is not merely saying that Hashem will do kindness towards you because he sees that you trust in him. It means that if you trust in Hashem, the kindness of people will surround you. That people will see that you have trust in Hashem. They're going to see you a different type of person. The way you carry yourself, the way you act is just the behavior is very, very different than anyone else. And people are naturally going to gravitate towards you. They're going to want to be around you. They're going to like you. And that's what it means that Hashem will show you the kindness through other people. Now, the responsible behavior, I want you to understand. Just because a person trusts in Hashem, I want you to know that this goes back to another one of the core principles. Core principle is just because you are very trusting and you have a full line of Bitachon and you understand that everything is from Hashem, I want to go back to the idea that you have to understand. It doesn't mean that you have to let your guard down where it makes sense to let your guard down, right? Where it doesn't make sense to let your guard down. I'll give you an example. For instance, you have to be careful, right? You have to protect yourself. Just because you trust in Hashem and you know nobody can hurt you, it doesn't mean you should walk in a bad neighborhood late at night, right? And just say, oh, I'm not worried because Hashem's got me. If you find yourself in a bad neighborhood at night or walking all alone, you should know that Hashem has got you. But don't put yourself into that situation. The same way we've learned early on in Shaar HaBitachon, one of the things of of guarding yourself is you're not allowed to jump in front of a bus and say, oh, well, if Hashem wants me to die, I'll die, and if I'm not supposed to die, then he'll save me, right? There was a number of reasons we spoke about over there as to why that is. But at the end of the day, I want you to understand that in the sixth reason over here, when we talk about relationships and people see that you're a very trusting person, you love Hashem, you're very into that, and that's great. Don't think for 1 second that you're allowed to, that you have a free pass to, do anything that might hurt you in the long term. You have to be on guard where it makes sense. You have to do things what we call b'derech hateva, which is cause and effect system that Hashem put together in this world. So if you're running a business, you're supposed to take the proper precautions that are required within your line of work. If you are going out in the cold, make sure to put on a coat. You can't just go out in the cold and say, oh, I'm not going to get sick because if Hashem wanted me to get sick, I'd get sick anyway, even with the coat. That's true. However, the cause and effect system, the shtados that you require dictates that you need to put on a coat, a scarf, a hat. You need to protect yourself, what makes sense in a normal day-to-day. Now, Let's move on to the final part of this, which is the non-trusting person. So we understand how the trusting person acts throughout his day-to-day. How does the person who lacks bitachon today, the person who has to work on that, how does he act when it comes to these things? A person who does not trust in Hashem, he can't have a real friend. Why? Because every single time something happens, he always blames everybody else. Whoever's around him gets the blame. So if something happens to him negatively, he blames other people. He blames his wife, his neighbors, his employer, his employees. If he's a student, he blames his teacher. If he's a teacher, he blames the students. Wherever he is, he's always blaming, finding a way to cast blame on somebody else. He antagonizes others because he's always envious of what they have and resentful at not having it. He's always looking to get something from others. And if he doesn't get it, he becomes upset. He considers any benefit or advantage that another person has, that they took it away from him, that they deflected it, that they took it for themselves, it really should have came to me. If somebody has a luxury items in the same industry as you, for instance, right? You know, say, oh, he stole my business. There's no such thing as somebody stealing your business. I just want to tell you that. No business will go to somebody else, and no business will leave you if not Hashem wanting that to happen. So there's no such thing as somebody stealing your business. Now, on face value, maybe they actually stole it. But Hashem would not allow that to happen if it wasn't meant to be that way. Now, I want you to understand something very, very important. When we talk about these people, these trusting people and the non-trusting people, I want you to understand, we're not talking about over here of an evil person who's not trusting, somebody who completely denies the idea that God exists. We're talking about a regular person, you and I. Every person on the share and every person that you know. We are human beings, and we do often are hurt by other people, and what we naturally do as humans, we blame those individuals. Our human instinct, our natural instinct is to deflect that right back to them and say, oh, why did you hurt me? The idea over here is that you need to deflect it on yourself. What did I do to deserve this? This person would not have been able to do so unless Hashem wanted this to happen. Why did Hashem want this to happen? That's the big question. And so I want you to understand that we're not talking about over here about a Russia, we're not talking about over here about an evil person, we're talking about a regular person, the average Joe, how you behave as a human being, how you react. Now the idea over here is that we want to train you. We want to train ourselves to think differently. We want to train ourselves to understand that when negativity hits you, it's not that other person that's around you. Don't try to find someone to blame. Don't try to find a reason for that happening that deflects it from yourself. Look at yourself, say, hey, how can I do better? Obviously, this is what Hashem wants to happen, and that's it. Maybe you need to learn more, daven more, whatever that is, that's irrelevant. But I just want you to understand that whatever happens to you is because Hashem wanted that to happen to you at that time. And that's the very important part to understand over here. This person who doesn't have bitachon today, he considers their income as having been taken from his own livelihood. He thinks people can steal his business. The non-trusting person thinks that anything that has been denied to him in attempting to satisfy his desires is because of other people. And he blames people for what he didn't succeed in doing. They didn't recognize him. They didn't give him enough honor. They didn't help. Whatever it is, he's always looking at somebody else and say, oh, you didn't do it. You didn't give it to me. And the non-trusting person thinks that it's in the power of others to help him succeed in his ambitions. He thinks that other people are going to be there. They're going to be able to help him. I want you to understand something extremely important. We spoke about this concept of a shaliach, a messenger of Hashem. We know that when we go to look for assistance, that somebody who helps you is a messenger for Hashem, and that if you deserve that help, you would get it either way, whether it's through this person or another person. We spoke about that at length. I want you to understand the same thing is true when it comes to a negative thing happening to you through someone else. If somebody slaps you, if somebody takes business away from you, somebody does something, they are just messengers of Hashem. It's the same exact principle. There is no difference between negative and positive outcomes when it comes to a messenger of Hashem. Nobody can make anything good or bad happen to you more than Hashem decreed should happen. And also through a specific person. So just because one person is helping you doesn't mean you won't get the help. It means you might get it from someone else. And just because one person might not hurt you, it doesn't mean that if you're supposed to get hurt, you won't get hurt from some other person or some other way. So I want you to understand that core principle. The shaliach concept is not just with a positive outcome, it is also with a negative outcome. Therefore, just because, and just the same is true when someone is there to help you, they did not give you enough money because you were looking to raise, $1,000 and they only gave you $10. You thank them and you keep going, you try some more, and you know that if just because they didn't give you any money, maybe, doesn't mean that they're evil. The same way over here. When someone does something negative towards you, just because they hurt you, doesn't mean that you weren't supposed to get that. You would have gotten that some other way, some other fashions, through some other person. That for sure would have happened. Now, finally, at the end of the day, Rabbi Victor Miller puts in some commentary over here, and he says, I want to go back to the concept of we trust in Hashem, but we still have to do our shtadlus. In every aspect of our life, we still need to do our part in order to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So again, we can't just put ourselves in harm's way and not worry that we won't get hurt. The same is true when it comes to hiring employees or choosing, Rabbi Victor Miller uses over here an example of choosing a caregiver for your children or for the elderly. At the end of the day, you don't want to hand over care to someone or put the keys to a specific aspect in your business over to somebody who might not be suitable for that job. So you, as your hishtadlus, your part that you need to do, your effort is to interview and figure out who is the best person in this moment for this specific task to do this job, whether it's for an employee, whether it is for a caregiver, whether it's even you're looking for an employer, right? You're looking for a job. So all those different things, you need to still put your best foot forward and then trust in Hashem and the outcome. If at the end of the day, maybe you made a poor decision and something happened, understand that would have happened regardless of who the caregiver was. But at the end of the day, the point he's making over here, you still need to do your part. And something that we're going to keep on reiterating over and over and over. And so something you have to remember. You can be the biggest Bitachon in the world, the most trusting person in Hashem that you can find. At the end of the day, Hashem wants something of you. He wants you to work. He wants you to do your part. He wants you to put your effort. And he just wants you to understand that your efforts mean absolutely zilch. It just means that you're doing what he asks you to do, what Hashem asks you to do. But the outcome, what you deserve, what Hashem wants you to have for whatever reason, that is only up to Hashem regardless of the line of work or the efforts you put into whatever it is that you're doing. Thank you everyone for joining us all here today. And as always, I love you all.